This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great platform that makes it easy and simple for you to buy, hold, and sell and earn crypto. You can trade from anything to anything. For example, you can trade between cryptocurrencies and precious metals. It's an amazing platform that I've been using for years. And in fact, I still use to this day because they're one, a great exchange, they're reputable, and they're one of the only exchanges that still lists XRP. Many of the other exchanges have delisted XRP due to the SEC lawsuit, but you can still get XRP on Uphold. So I've interviewed the CEO, the founder, and many other representatives from Uphold over the years, and I'm a fan of this platform. And once again, there's some great features like trading between different assets very easily. You don't have to convert to a currency and so forth. They're used by 10 plus million users. They have over 200 cryptocurrencies. And they have a very easy to use app. The interface is really nice. So I can certainly vouch for this platform. Once again, I've been a user for years. So if you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Ron Hammond of the Blockchain Association. Ron is the Director of Government Relations at the Blockchain Association. Ron, it's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Ron, lots to talk about. Yesterday, it was interesting news coming out of the SEC. Kim Kardashian being fined $1.26 million for an undisclosed promotion of a crypto token by the name of Ethereum Max. However, what's interesting is what the SEC did with that news and the PR moves that they made. Tell us what you're hearing and seeing on that front.
Yeah, sure thing. The odd part about being crypto policy these days is that one moment I'm talking about commodity regulation, securities laws, and some really in-depth policy. And then next week, I'm talking about Kim Kardashian on Capitol Hill. So it's hilarious how this space really, truly evolves so quickly. And you really just never know what you're going to be dealing with some weeks. So definitely interesting to say the least. So for folks who didn't know, Kim Kardashian was fined $1.26 million by the SEC for promoting back in 2021 the EMAX or Ethereum Max token. She did have a disclosure that said #ad that we're very familiar with social media, especially on Instagram. But it was determined by the SEC that she should have disclosed that she was paid $250,000. And it was kind of funny, actually, because on CNBC, actually, there was a reporter who said, or anchor who said, I'm getting texts right now from folks in the media side of things saying, well, look, what are the rules to follow here? If I do have a celebrity or influencer who does want to promote a cryptocurrency, what are the rules of the road here? And it was kind of funny to see how a different sector was now dealing with regulatory uncertainty in terms of their business model versus, how we do financial elements here. So that's pretty intriguing. One thing I will say too is that also there's a lot of celebrities who do come to Capitol Hill to advocate for certain causes, think like PETA and such like that. But there's also a lot of noble causes as well, like child hunger with Jose Andres and stuff. But Kim Kardashian's a pretty influential person that comes to DC quite often. I think it's been twice already this year. And so DC does take notice with these celebrities, even though it might seem a little childish or juvenile sometimes. It actually does take a lot of notice. And the amount of Hill staffers who have reached out to me in the past 24 hours about this, it's been pretty nuts. But it's kind of cool in some sort because it does bring a little pop culture to financial services policy, which typically doesn't have that flair that you used to have. So definitely telling to say the least, but I think it's pretty obvious that there was some wrongdoing here. Although the confusion around what is a proper disclosure goes back to the securities law issue. What's security? What's a commodity? And what's the role here? Right. And I think that's a question that's still something that Congress needs to solve, but it's going to be a while.
And it seemed like the SEC used this as an opportunity to really toot their horn. Gary went on CNBC early in the morning. They were tweeting. They had a well-edited video, graphics, all the bells and whistles with it.
You're right on the money. Yeah. So for folks who may not be aware, in DC, there's the end of the fiscal year was actually last Friday. And so typically what agencies do is that they use that. They try to do a lot of enforcement actions before then, especially the SEC or CFTC DOJ, for example, because if you remember like big drug busts when they would have a bunch of like drugs and guns and stuff, they would show off and they would take big pictures, make a whole fanfare of it. That's pretty much what the SEC and CFTC and other regulators do before the end of the fiscal year. They want to show to Congress, hey, look, here's what we did with the money that you appropriated to us, and here's the bad guys we caught. And so for us in DC, we were sitting on pins and needles until the end of Friday, being, we're hearing rumors of something big happening. We just don't know what it is, but something's happening. And then by Friday at 5 o'clock, nothing happened. We were kind of shocked, but sometimes we do get some nice surprises. And then right at 8 o'clock in the morning, here's a pretty well-coordinated PR campaign from the SEC. Again, graphics, as you mentioned. They have a very in-depth videos with actors. I mean, this is a production that took several weeks to coordinate. And so it's telling that the SEC wanted to plant a flag. They want not just folks in DC to understand, or the folks in the regular financial crypto space. They wanted the whole world to know they went after Kim Kardashian, and they wanted to make sure it was blasted everywhere. And so very well coordinated media campaign rollout. I think it's a signal from Gary Gensler to the industry. Look, no one's off the table here. He's gone after celebrities before, or I guess Jay Clayton has in his past tenure. But I think this is just the start. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more enforcement actions from the SEC. It's been very telling from both the Biden administration encouraging actually the regulators to do such, but also with the lack of congressional oversight until probably 2023, just because Congress is so focused on the elections right now.
Sure. I saw somebody tweet something which I thought was interesting, and it kind of speaks to, the lack of trust people have in the SEC, because there was talks of where was this for Celsius Network and Terra Luna, right, which caused lots more harm and had lots more ripple effects across the board for the entire market. But Kim Kardashian going after her, finding her 1.26 million, which is nothing for her and for some small crypto project back in the day.
Exactly. And so we did this in Congress a lot. They do these things called messaging bills. They try to do something that gets a lot of social media attention. There's some ideas out there like, building the wall, for example, and even the things that weren't going to ever be done, they sound really good and they get a lot of media headlines. This is pretty much that in the SEC's form, which, the way they make news is through enforcement actions. And so you go against arguably the biggest celebrity in the world right now. It's pretty remarkable. And obviously you're going to get a lot of attention. So mission accomplished. I think, though, it's a warning shot. I think that there's definitely more to come, because you just don't go after someone with a menial fine for a token that has lost, 97% of its value since that post. Yeah. And there was some disclosure, even though it wasn't much disclosure besides hashtag ad. So it put the world on notice who the SEC is, and they're going after crypto. So even though folks who don't, watch this channel or aren't on crypto Twitter, they at least know crypto SEC, they're on top of it.
Now, there's a lot more going on with the SEC, and specifically the Ripple lawsuit. There were some big updates last week where the judge ordered the SEC to hand over Bill Hinman's, former SEC official Bill Hinman's documents. Also, we saw a bunch of amicus briefs being filed on behalf of Ripple. One was with the Digital Chamber of Commerce, which was a bit neutral. And then you had some folks who are using RippleNet and XRP like TapJet and iRemit file their amicus briefs on behalf of Ripple. What are your thoughts on that, and what are the folks in DC saying about that?
I haven't been following too much, but I will say there's been a little bit of a groundswell, at least in terms of the legal community behind a lot of folks, whether they be in the XRP army or Ripple specifically. Again, I'm not more purview to a lot of those legal conversations because I did more on the lobbying front here, but there seems to be a lot more, hey, we're all in this together. That's kumbaya feeling that has been growing for quite some time. Now, mind you, of course, there are a lot of bad scam folks that do not have that same kumbaya as they do with, a lot more of the traditional players in the crypto space. But it's been encouraging to see at least a lot of folks come together on the legal side and say, look, we got to play defense here for Ripple or for the XRP army, or at least just candidly against the SEC, because this is going to be very monumental. So the amicus briefs have been awesome. I think we're going to probably see some more down the road, but it's been great to see at least just this groundswell of support here, because as we're dealing with here in the crypto space, in DC is that we're all in one team. Whether if you want to win out or you want to have market share dominance, you do that outside DC. But in DC, we are all in this together because there are too many forces who like to split us up or to try to create some infighting. And I keep trying to tell folks, look, the banks are after us. We got a lot of fintech groups after us now. We have consumer protection groups after us. We have the regulators after us. We got to make sure we are all in this together. And that's why, groups like the Digital Chamber of Commerce, the Blockchain Association are very, very important for making sure that there's a unified front. And so I think it's been great to see that.
Yeah, for sure. Yesterday, there was reports from the Financial Times that President Biden is pushing Congress to act on crypto regulations. Can you validate that? And what are you hearing as far as behind the scenes?
Yeah. So for those who weren't aware, there was the FSOC report, the Financial Stability Oversight Commission report. Committee report, my apologies. And basically just all the bank regulators in DC, FDIC, SEC, Treasury, OCC, CFPB, a lot of acronyms. But anyways, all the financial regulators come together and say, what are the market risks posed by cryptocurrency and stablecoins? It was a 125-page report. It came out on Monday. And it highlighted a lot of the risks that we've already seen before, whether it be in previous Biden executive order reports or in previous reports from nonprofits or think tanks or just from the regulators themselves. So it wasn't as new. The main things, though, I will say that was telling is just the shift in tone, the shift saying the regulators understand where they need Congress to step in. They need to step in on stablecoin regulation and spot market regulation of Bitcoin, and hopefully other commodities like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that's very telling. They're saying, Congress, you need to fill a role here. The good thing is that there are bills in Congress that do address these issues, and they both are bipartisan right now. Now, the question is, how long does Congress have to pass these bills? Because they don't have much time the rest of the year. I mean, they actually are not here in DC anymore till the election because they are back campaigning in their districts and connecting with voters and constituents. They'll come back, they'll vote on a lame duck, and then they're back to January 2023, which is going to be a very pivotal year. So very rare to get anything done this Congress. But I will say, the administration said Congress needs to act, and if they don't, the agencies are going to step up with enforcement actions. And I think we're seeing that right now. I mean, we saw that with the SEC. We're seeing that now with the CFTC, the Ooki DAO enforcement action, which is very, very telling. And there's going to be a lot more developments probably on that front. But in the meantime, our hope is that we keep pushing Congress to act because, again, very transparent process. What amendments are coming down the pipeline. You can see the bill text, not just lobbyists or folks in DC. The entire American public can see it. And I think that's a very important process. You can see exactly how our government works and where folks can have input, whether it be pro or against crypto. It's always good to have an open dialogue. And I think that's where Congress is really important to have that conversation. So while that's good to have Congress involved, the push for regulators to assert their authority via enforcement seems to be a trend they're going to call for in the meantime.
Yeah, to your point, they got to act, or these agencies are just going to start doing their thing. And we saw the Treasury, a tornado cash, and then SEC's been doing multiple enforcement actions. And you mentioned the Ooki DAO situation with CFTC. Tell us about that, and what was the premise behind that, for those who may not know?
Yeah, the Ooki DAO situation is interesting because they're going after a DAO here, which is in DC. It's a pretty niche subject matter. I mean, a lot of folks in DC in our conversations, they really don't understand DAOs right now. There's been some legislation, most notably in the Lummis-Gillibrand bill on DAOs and defining such. But overall, they're pretty obscure things in DC, and a lot of folks haven't really been touching them. But there's a lot of implications with this enforcement action. And candidly, we're still at the Blockchain Association having conversations, figuring out exactly, what was the motivation here? What's the rationale? What are the potential implications? Let's just hypothetically say if you were a token holder and you voted in the DAO, but you voted against the proposals, technically, according to CFTC, you could be liable, even though you voted against the proposal that got them in trouble and to begin with. And so, again, this is all very much at a high level, but the implications are massive. And I will tell you, talking to a lot of our folks in our membership of 105 members, the day after the enforcement action, there were texts that were being sent out, at least or messages sent out to us as an association saying, we are seeing an instant effect right now of low participation in DAOs because people are scared.
Wow.
And again, this is what regulation by enforcement looks like when you see firsthand from folks on the industry side saying, we are watching this in real time, it's plummeting in terms of participation and attendance from folks in DAOs, just because they're scared that they're going to be potentially subject to an enforcement action down the road. And that's pretty stifling. And so seeing that in action not happen within like a week or 2 weeks, the next day. And so that's really unfortunate. I hope we can get a lot of these questions that we have on this action clarified pretty soon. But it's really pivotal, especially when we're talking about CFTC regulation and legislation in Congress, like the spot market regulation with the Digital Commodity Consumer Protection Act, DCCPA for short. But that's a Senate agriculture bill from Senator Stabenow, who's a Democrat, and Senator Bozeman, who's a Republican. And we'll see that bill gets across the finish line. There's still a lot of questions how they address DeFi and such and DAOs now. But our hope is that we can use Congress to say, look, we want to make sure we protect consumers, but let's make sure we have some clarity for DAOs and DeFi, because the idea that they are now feel concerned to participate because they could be legally liable is pretty ridiculous, even if they didn't vote for the proposal.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the attention has been on the SEC and their enforcement actions, but now the CFTC is starting to do their own thing now with enforcement.
Exactly. And we're going to see more of this until Congress steps up. And so I think that's a lot of folks are saying, well, the industry just wants to, pick and choose the regulators. And it says, no, it's more of getting caught off guard here. And the idea of a lot of folks just don't know the rules of the road. And someone said this best to me the other day, saying, it's scared. You never want to be first anymore. You always want to be second or third to do something. And that's literally what, again, stifling innovation is like, where everyone now is just waiting for someone else to take that a little extra risk. And if they don't get bopped on the head, then they come back, everyone else can follow suit. That is definitely stifling here. And I've been hearing a lot more of that from folks in the industry within our membership, but also just when I talk to conferences, just a lot of folks are saying, we're scared here. And so that's why it's really important that we need legislation rather than just waiting for the next enforcement action and then criticizing the agency. I think it's just important to say we just need rules of the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So most likely nothing will get done because midterms, people are campaigning, like you said, and then look, the holidays are coming right around the corner. So, what is your gut tell you, as far as percentage chance of something getting through? 50%, 40%?
I still say 10% right now. But that's actually probably the highest we've ever had in DC. And everyone's like shocked by that. You guys got to remember also, there 99% of bills introduced do never become law. Like there's over 6,000 bills introduced every 2 years at least. And so the idea of any of those bills getting passed in the law is minimal, but the idea that one could be 10% is pretty massive. And again, that's probably the Stabenow bill, the DCCPA on spot market regulation. Stablecoin bill, I probably put at 5% chance, just because it's still a draft. It's not an actual bill. But neither have had, old Schoolhouse Rock, neither have had their committee votes or markup, they call it. And so, even to start the process of having all 435 members of the House to vote on it, you still need to have a committee vote. And that takes a lot of effort and time. And so can they do that in 5 weeks? It's going to be tough. But the last thing I will say is the lame duck is pretty much like, it is Christmas time, very appropriate, but everyone kind of just piles up a bunch of stuff into this one big bill and they all pass it. And the question is, will folks get their Christmas tree presents and throw it into this big massive spending bill and hope that they can get a win here or there? So whether that be actually on the DCCPA, the broker definition fix for the infrastructure bill, the de minimis exemption that Senator Toomey introduced recently, there's a couple small bills here that can easily get put in a bill. So there's always a chance something happens. And so while I say 10% chance, and that doesn't sound that high, that's actually pretty high in PC. So we'll see what happens. But regardless of what happens in 2022, 2023, guaranteed. I said it a million times, I'm a broken record. It's going to be a big year. There folks are already having conversations with me about, we want to do this. We want to do this in March. We want to do this in July. Of course, everything changes, but it's really exciting to see just they're planning for this stuff right now.
Ron, always a pleasure, my friend. You always have the insight. You take us behind the curtain, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Anytime. Happy to do it.